You have been carrying a question that no one around you has been able to answer. You have felt a weight on your chest that doesn't come from a mistake you made or from a failure in judgment, but from a silence that has lasted far too long. Stop right now. What I am about to reveal is not for everyone who hears it. It is specifically for you. Something happened in your life in these last few days, something you can barely put into words, but it has left your spirit on high alert. This Sunday is not an ordinary Sunday. It marks the boundary between what you have endured and what you are about to receive. This is the moment when the quiet waiting comes to an end, because what you have been secretly seeking has finally been approved in the heavens. Throughout this conversation, you will recognize the 5 signs that have been showing up in your everyday life, and you will understand why they are not coincidences but coordinates. You will see the invisible pattern that has kept your great love at a distance. And above all, I will proclaim over your life the confirmation that this cycle of loneliness has been closed by the Creator Himself. You need to stay until the end, because what I am about to give you is not a theory. It is a key. You have noticed the strangeness of the things around you. You wake up, often at the exact same time, as if there were an insistent call to a vigil you didn't even know you were keeping. Your conversations with the people close to you seem to have become hollow, empty, as if you were speaking from a distant shore to someone who cannot hear your frequency. You have been having vivid dreams, night encounters, where the face of the person you are waiting for appears with a clarity that your daily life insists on hiding. The loneliness you feel is not a curse. It is a protective isolation. It is the calibration process of your heart, being cleansed of all the frequencies that do not belong to the level of love that God has prepared for your story. You are not stagnant. You are being prepared. What you feel as a delay is, in fact, the preparation of the ground for something that needs deep roots, so it won't be swept away by the first wind. The act of typing those 3 digits is your affirmation that you accept this alignment. It is your silent yes to the harvest that is beginning. Type 888 and then come back to me immediately. The diagnosis of what you have been living through is simple. You have been trying to force a door that wasn't ready yet, operating out of an anxiety that was imposed on you. For years, you believed that your worth depended on how fast you achieved things, treating your life like a battlefield where raw effort was the only currency. But the exhaustion you feel today is not a sign of weakness. It is proof that you have exhausted every route that does not lead to your destination. You have been trying to fill a sacred place with people who do not have the capacity to carry the weight of your soul. The pattern you repeated, overgiving, constant searching for validation, fear of being forgotten, has been your way of trying to ensure that love would not pass you by. But in truth, that fear of being alone is exactly what prevented the arrival of the person who was destined to walk beside you. Imagine now a house, not a brick-and-mortar building, but the structure of your own existence. For a long time, you left the windows open for people who had no permission to enter, and the house became full of drafts, dust, and strangers who only visited to take the little you had. God, as the supreme architect, began closing those entrances. He emptied your house, not to leave it abandoned, but to furnish it with what is true. What you call the wilderness is actually the period of renovation in which the architect is making sure that when your great love arrives, there will be no more room for what is fleeting or unfaithful. The furniture of your life is being replaced. What was temporary is being removed, and the peace you are starting to feel now, even with nothing visible in the landscape, is the evidence that the new furniture is already being installed. Let this declaration secure your position. Type now and come back to my side. If this revelation touched the truth you were keeping in silence, let your like be your amen without words. Not as a tally of numbers, but as a gesture of spiritual agreement with what has been named here. You have felt that in the middle of this renovation, everything false is falling apart on its own. That is mercy at work. You no longer have to fight against what moves away, because what moves away is only making room for what is permanent. The fear of being forgotten is a relic of a time that no longer exists. From this Sunday forward, your stance changes. You are no longer someone who desperately searches. You are someone who attracts, because your heart is occupied with the presence of the architect who has already approved your match. There is someone in your life who needs to hear this today. Someone who has been working far beyond their strength, someone who carries a look of secret tiredness, someone who keeps faith even when all the evidence says otherwise. That person whose face came to your mind while I was speaking, that person needs this comfort. Send this content to them, not as an ordinary suggestion, but as an act of care, a ministry of hope that you deliver exactly at the moment they most need a sign that the end of the waiting is near. Before we reach the closing, I want you to establish your identity in this promise. Do not do it as a wish, but as a confirmation that the agreement between heaven and your journey is made. You are claiming your place in the story that was written for you. You have been carrying the weight of a search that, in truth, was never yours to sustain. Let's look at the pattern that has shaped your days. You have been trying to find, in the wrong places, a validation that only time and the right alignment could bring. There is an exhaustion that does not come from physical work, but from the constant effort of trying to control fate, of pushing doors that stay closed, and of forcing connections that have no root. You have been operating under the illusion that if you don't search, nothing will come, and that belief has drained your peace. The diagnosis is clear. You have been trying to be the architect of a structure you have not yet seen, but that is already finished. You have been applying your energy to roots that lead to the desert, believing that survival depends on your constant vigilance, when in truth your greatest strength lies in stopping to dig where there is no water. That pattern of desperate searching is not a character flaw. It is just a protective response you developed so you wouldn't be left helpless. But your vigilance is no longer needed, because what is coming does not have to be hunted. It only needs a place to land. Imagine now what happens beneath that surface. There is a metaphor I want you to carry as a non-negotiable truth. Think of your heart not as an empty field, but as a house that has already been designed and furnished by an architect who makes no mistakes. While you were running, trying to build walls, windows, and doors with your own hands, he was already preparing the interior. Every detail, every piece of furniture, every place of rest, and every space for sharing, everything has already been placed in the right spot. You have felt a growing anxiety because you try to furnish a house that is not yours, ignoring that the architect has already taken care of everything essential. He is not waiting for you to finish the construction before sending the love you so desire. He has already approved the blueprints and already handed the keys to the one he chose to inhabit that space with you. The house is ready. The table is already set. The place where you will feel safe, loved, and seen already exists. The delay you feel is not negligence. It is the preparation time so that you can enter that space without carrying the rubble of previous constructions that didn't work. The architect knows that if you entered earlier, you would try to tear down the walls he raised for your protection. He is just waiting for you to drop the construction tools you still hold, so you can finally enter and rest. The act of typing these words is your acknowledgement that you no longer need to be the architect of your own life, but rather the resident of a promise that has already been consolidated. That is mercy at work. The solution to your restlessness is not a new search strategy, but a radical return to surrender. You need to understand that your part is not to build, but to allow. Effort is what pulls us away from flow, while surrender is what places us in the current of providence. Let go of the fear that if you stop, life will pass you by without seeing you. The architect knows the address of the house he himself prepared for you. He will not miss the road, and he will not forget what was planned before you were even born. When you release control, you release the tension that prevented recognition. The exhaustion you feel is the sign that you have carried weights that were never assigned to your shoulders. Let the fear of being forgotten dissolve like morning fog, because the one who prepares the banquet does not forget to invite the owner of the house. You no longer need to prove your worth to be worthy of a great love, because the architect has already ensured that the environment for that meeting is as perfect as possible. Your only task now is to trust the design and keep the doors unlocked for the person who is coming, without needing to check every minute whether they are on their way. They are. And the meeting will be so natural that you will finally understand that everything you went through was just the process of furnishing your interior, so that when love arrived, you would be fully inhabited by peace, not by need. There is someone in your life who needs to hear this exact acknowledgement today. Think of that person you know who has been walking in silence, accumulating exhaustion without complaint. Someone who works harder than everyone around them and yet still sees the doors stay closed. Think of that someone who keeps faith intact even when the evidence insists on the opposite. Someone who carries a look of waiting, a stillness that no one else can decode or understand. The face of that person just appeared in your mind while I was speaking. It was not by chance. Send this message to them now. Not as a suggestion, not as casual advice, but as a delivery, a part of the mission entrusted to you. The same clarity that was given to you today needs to reach them, because they too are part of this cycle of renewal that begins this Sunday. Before we close this moment, before you return to your daily tasks, I need you to establish a final commitment with yourself. Do not do it as a request, nor as a distant hope. Type it as a confirmation of who you are and where you are positioned now. The agreement that formed between your hearing and this truth over these minutes is the foundation on which you will live from today onward. Type these words slowly, allowing your fingers to translate what your spirit has already understood and accepted as absolute reality. You are commissioned, you are sent, you are appointed. Feel the weight of these declarations in every fiber of your being. Your time of preparation was not in vain, it was a forge. Your waiting was not an emptiness, it was an alignment. Now you no longer walk toward the promise, you walk from it. You are at this moment equipped with the certainty that the architect makes no mistakes, and that the banquet of your life is already set, waiting only for the exact moment when the match, approved from on high, will reveal itself before your eyes, finding in you a heart at peace, a spirit free from need, and a house prepared to receive the love that God designed. You understand now that this coming Sunday is not just the mark of a new week on your calendar, but the chronological milestone of a restoration that has been drawn in the shadows of your journey all along. For a long time, you looked around for signs, searching in unfamiliar faces for the answer to a restlessness that seemed to have no name. You were looking for someone who could fill the silence echoing in the rooms of your routine, someone who could finally read the map you carried drawn on your soul, but which no one else seemed able to decipher. And yet, that relentless search, that pursuit of validation from others, was precisely what kept clarity from settling in for good. There was an urgency in your chest, a desire to be seen, to be understood, to be loved with the intensity you know you are capable of offering. But haste, that subtle enemy of fullness, often made you confuse need with connection. You found yourself perhaps letting loneliness dictate the rhythm of your choices, or maybe accepting less than your spirit already knew it deserved, just so you wouldn't have to face the void one more time. But all of that, every disappointment, every door that closed before you could touch the handle, every conversation that didn't bloom, every hope you had to tuck back inside, served a higher purpose. Take a breath now. Let the air fill every corner of your being, calming your pulse and quieting your mind. What you lived through was not a waste of time, it was the refining of your very essence. If you look back and recognize that there were moments when exhaustion overwhelmed hope, if you feel that your sensitivity was interpreted by others as weakness, know that this same sensitivity is your purest point of contact with the divine. An alignment is happening right now. The pieces of the puzzle you tried to force together for years are starting to fit on their own, moved by an intelligence that does not depend on your effort, but on your surrender. For this clarity to settle once and for all, you need to recognize the pattern that kept you stuck. You spent so much time trying to hold the reins of your destiny, trying to orchestrate the meetings, the dates, the approaches, that you forgot a fundamental truth. True love is not something you chase. It is something you find when you stop running and finally decide to inhabit your own place. God, the architect of this work, has already prepared the house. He furnished every room with the virtues you needed to develop, painted the walls with the patience you needed to learn, and opened the windows so you could see the world not as a battlefield, but as a garden of harvests. Imagine this house. It is not a construction of brick and mortar, but a sacred space within you. For a long time, this house was under construction. There was noise, there was dust, there were moments when you felt nothing would ever be ready, that the project was too grand for the little time you had. But look now, the furniture is in place. The room is lit by a soft light that comes from within, a light you yourself fed with every one of your prayers, with every tear you shed in silence when no one was watching. The ground is level, the door is unlocked. The architect not only built, he blessed every inch of your inner dwelling, ensuring that when the right person arrives, they will find in you not someone desperate to fill a gap, but someone overflowing with a fullness that is impossible to ignore. It is not about being prepared for a task. It is about being ready to receive what has already been approved for your life. The act of typing these 3 words is your seal of acceptance. It is the moment you admit that the waiting is over, and that from now on you inhabit the space that was reserved for you. Type, feel this truth settle in your chest, and then return to our conversation. Notice that this readiness changes everything. It changes the way you walk, the way you speak, the way you look at those who cross your path. When you are at peace with your own interior, you stop emitting the signal of need and start emitting the signal of presence. And it is this presence, this aura of someone who knows exactly who they are and what they deserve, that attracts the love that was, from the beginning, approved from on high. You no longer have to hide, and you no longer have to sell yourself for crumbs. You are, at this moment, a magnetic field of purpose. You know, many times we feel like a boat that insists on sailing against the tide, burning all its energy just to keep from drifting backward. But life, when lived in surrender, works like a river. The river does not strain to reach the sea. It simply allows gravity to guide it. Your current effort, your constant striving to control tomorrow, is what keeps you far from the still waters. Let go. Let the flow of providence take over. The love that arrives this Sunday is not an intruder. It is a recognition. It is as if, when you meet, you realize you have known each other for a long time, perhaps even before you ever saw each other physically. And if what we have talked about here today made sense, if it touched a part of you that seemed asleep, let your like be your amen without words. An invisible seal that says you recognize what was named here as your truth. You have been feeling this way, haven't you? Like someone carrying a treasure in their pocket, but afraid to open their hand and show it. You protected your heart with armor that at some point served to protect you, but now only serves to isolate you. The Sunday that is approaching is the day that armor becomes unnecessary. The love that God has approved for you is a love that does not require you to fight. It is a love that invites you to rest. It is the complement to your peace, not the disruption of your routine. Understand that by opening up, you are not exposing yourself to danger. You are exposing yourself to light. And in the light, the shadows of doubt cannot survive. The conversations that once felt empty will begin to have substance. The gestures that once went unnoticed will gain new weight. You will notice that the people around you are also changing, because by changing your frequency, you change the world you inhabit. Sunday is the peak of this process, the moment when the invisible becomes visible, when desire becomes encounter. Do not worry about the details. Do not try to guess how it will happen, where it will happen, or what the person will say. The mystery is part of the beauty. Just trust that the architect knows your address and that the delivery is on its way. Your only duty from now on is to remain in the house that was prepared. Keep your heart open, the house clean, and your spirit ready. You are no longer in the season of waiting. You are in the season of revelation. There is someone in your life who needs to hear these words right now. Someone who has been walking a path of great integrity, but who, at the end of the day, feels the weight of the silence in an empty house. Someone you know whose face just crossed your mind as I was speaking. It could be a friend who works tirelessly, someone who keeps their faith intact despite not seeing the results. Or that person you can tell is secretly longing for a connection that resonates with their soul. Don't keep this revelation to yourself. Send this message to that person, not as advice, but as a delivery. Maybe you are the channel through which hope will reach their heart this Sunday. Make this gesture a commitment to kindness, being the bearer of news that time has already prepared to be delivered. Before this cycle closes, and before you return to the rhythm of your daily life, take a deep moment. Breathe deeply and feel the solidity of what has been shared here. This is not a fleeting wish. It is a reality that has already begun to move in the invisible realm. I want you to affirm your position in this new season. Type the words in the space below. I am the chosen one. Do not write it as someone asking for a favor or as someone afraid of doubt. Write it as someone signing a definitive document, as someone who acknowledges the contract that has been sealed between divine purpose and your personal path. The energy of someone who steps into their place is unmistakable. Let your fingers express the certainty that your spirit has already embraced. You are committed, you are commissioned, you are sent. The ground of your life is ready for what is coming. The doors that needed to open have already given way, and the bonds that needed to form are already in the process of manifesting. From now on, walk with the lightness of one who knows that love is not something you chase, but something you receive, because you have become the place where love can dwell. At this very moment, scattered across every corner